All right. Can you hear me? We good to go on
Yeah, I got
audio?
you. Morning, Scott.
Okay.
Morning,
Good
Rob.
morning, everyone on LinkedIn Live and YouTube. We're back with another episode of Take an E with a brand new logo. Threw this together earlier this week because we're excited to have, I would say, our first kind of official guest. We've had a few chats and stuff with Mike's members, but Rob was kind enough to reach out to us, Mike, and
Yeah.
say, hey, you guys talk about leadership after service. And that's obviously something that comes up all the time. Because I remember a few years ago, I was watching this podcast. Or actually, no, I was interviewing a friend of mine, Jason Stapleton. And he's a big branding and marketing guy. And he's like, the problem with getting out of the military is I always say translate your military skills to civilian skills. And it's like, well, how do you translate leadership skills? Because obviously military leadership is very different, yet we know we're leaders, so that's an obvious thing we're going to do on the outside. And so we're excited to get into it. And Rob, we're going to hand it over to you. Wanted to check in with Mike real quick. I know he just got back at midnight last night for a big day, another great cohort in DC for the Blue Water Advisors. Just want to get some thoughts on how that went, Mike, and then we'll get into today's topic.
Yeah, it was another really good day. And just kudos to the Booz Allen leadership team, right? We've made some pretty strong inroads with the company there. Rob, you're probably not tracking it real close, but it's huge, right? They opened the infrastructure for us. So for us to go downtown near the Navy Yard on 20 M Street, right, and step into a corporate office and to step into some beautiful conference rooms and spend the day with our team there, that's huge, right? That's a huge contribution. And we know that it's one thing to pitch a message, but to pitch a message in the environment that many of them will likely be, in, right? That just reinforces, right? Hey, this, here was the uniform, here was the time in service, here's the boardroom, and this, for many, not all, but for many, this is what it'll look like going forward, right? So thanks to that leadership team. Steve Weeman carried the water a lot with us. He's a staunch supporter and a partner of ours at Blue Water, but also does some naval aviation enterprise work for Booz, right? Scott, we had a great turnout. 11 senior leaders in the class there. We were joined by our lunch roundtable guests. We had representation, Ed Wheeler from Textron. We had Scotty Askins, who just literally happened to be in the DC area. He called me the night before and said, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to support. And to have a director from EY show up at the lunch roundtable to contribute, it was just amazing. So Scotty, thanks, for that. We had Chris Bushnell, who's a senior director of the Surface Navy Association. He laid eyes on the program out there as well and spent the entire day with us, not only at the lunch roundtable. And then from Act One, which is a government contracting company headquartered up in DC, Michael Nunziato. And so,
Mike.
Again, Rob, just kind of throwing a lot at you here. We get them for a day to reinforce the message on, what your career progression or transition is going to look like. And then we bring in senior leaders who have transitioned before, who are now resident in various different industries or companies. And it's a non-attribution environment. We don't provide them a script. They sit up there and the members in the room just fire any question that they want to these individuals. And we have so much trust and faith in our message, like we don't give them a script. I don't give them guardrails. I just say, hey, you've lived it. You're transitioned on the other side. I have all the confidence in the world that whatever you say is going to align with what we're putting out, right? And that really reinforces the credibility of the message throughout the day. So listen, it was a great day. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it, Scott, and a little bit of insight for you there, Rob. But yeah, it was just another super cohort, right? And the numbers are continuing to grow, right? I mean, we've put through 350-ish, or really getting close to 350 by the end of the year. We'll be 400 senior leaders that we've put through this program here pretty soon. So that's pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, Mike. No, thanks, Sharon. Glad you had another success, and great to see that Mike Nunziato is there. We chatted with him a few weeks ago here as we were getting started. So cool. Well,
and then the long drive back last night, lots of coffee, and then here we are this morning, right? So it's all good.
Awesome. Well, we're very excited to have Rob Campbell from Rob Campbell Leadership joining us today, and would just love to get your insights, Rob. But first, please just tell us about yourself and a little bit about your journey as a senior leader getting out.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Great to be with you. I love these kind of conversations on a very important topic. And Mike, what a great event that sounds like. I'd love to join you at some point. It's such an important discussion. And I don't know when one gets to put an ED after transition. I believe it's just a journey we travel. You and I separated right about the same time, 15. Yeah. And it still feels like yesterday. And so I know you got back late. If you look like you're falling asleep, I'll ask you to stand up. Already.
And it just hit me right now. This joint environment, I'm surrounded by Army guys, right? And I'm the only Navy guy in the room. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah. We can't hit each other. So we're okay. Hey, guys, I'm Rob Campbell. Army officer, retired colonel. I did 27 years. Started back in 1990, never looked back. Commanded a brigade, rose through the ranks, commanded a brigade in the 101st Airborne Division. And then at that mark 2015, 16, my path and the Army's path started to diverge. Like, okay, I've got some different goals and wanted to set out. My wife and I had raised 2 kids, they're out of the house and all that stuff. So stepped into transition, akin to being placed in a foreign country without an interpreter, as you both probably remember, because I've got so much I can talk about. I'll throw a few things out and then I'll shut up and maybe you guys drop in questions or maybe share your own similar experiences. But we get so used to things in military service. And it was explained to me once by a guy who had made the transition, wrote a book about it, whose name I forget right now. I'll share it with you. You can put it in the link. But the neurons in our brain get grooved like well-worn streams. We can go from base to base to base, know exactly what to say, how to fit in, everything. It's somewhat easy and orderly. And when we come out, none of that stuff works anymore. The language doesn't work. We're not on the base anymore. We're having to explain something to a society that doesn't understand. And so now you're walking on the edge of that well-worn stream. Your brain's working harder, and that manifests in stress and depression. I have often said, I still say that transition is traumatic. It's a strong word, but it's because it's so different and because it's exacerbated now by this chasm which exists between us and society, which happened after 9/11, where the military, not the nation, went off to war. We went to the battlefields and Iraq and Afghanistan and beyond again and again and again. And society went back to life as normal, save for some inconvenience at the airport. It's not their fault. I don't resent them. There are some veterans that don't handle that well, but it's just a fact. It just is. And so there is this really strange space between us. Thank you for your service. And then this odd silence that follows, what do I say now? Right. So I started the journey in fall of 16. I decided to take a year off after a very demanding career, 3 combat tours and all of that. I was like, okay, what in the world? I did transition with a sense of who I was. And I'm thankful for that because I believe most veterans do not. The transition programs do a wonderful job of administratively separating us from service. And that's great. That's frankly what they're designed to do. But there's a gap, you two know, in, okay, Rob, you were an engineer or an infantryman or an MP. The military told you what your passion was. You were part of a band of brothers and sisters. So if there was job passion misalignment, well, I'm not really passionate about being a mechanic. It was trumped by being part of this band of brothers and sisters. Fulfillment there. Well, when you come out, that's exacerbated. Now you've got a blank sheet of paper, and the system pushes us towards that. Mike, you are a mechanic. Therefore, we're going to translate your MOS and make you a mechanic elsewhere. Oh,
Yeah, it was very limiting. I agree. Yeah.
I don't want to be a mechanic on the outside. I want to do something different. But at the core of that is, who are you, Mike? Because the Navy told you who you were, the Army told us who we were. Now, that's a blank sheet of paper for us, and it's daunting to revisit. Okay, who am I? Well, I knew I was passionate about leadership and investing in people, and I had practiced that in the Army and wanted to carry that forward. I didn't know how, but I got into book writing and started my leadership business, speaking and coaching and doing some consulting. It's been wonderful, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing as a private business owner. Thought I could ride that resume. So I took what's called the gateway drug. And the gateway drug is this: you get a tax ID number, a website, and a business card. You're in business.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You have a hobby. That's all you have.
Right.
Proof. Spring of 17, Rob Campbell Leadership is born. January of 18, my first paying client. It took me that long to convince someone to write me a check.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was tough. And then I wrote that first book on leadership, and that's where I got the idea of, okay, I could sell this big business card, do that, travel that journey, really got interested in entrepreneurship, wanted a team back around me again. I missed that. Private business ownership was a mountain to climb, and I'm a guy that's just always looking for a challenge. So dove into entrepreneurship, I bought a blinds business, shutters, blinds, and shades, and then I bought a painting, or I started a painting company off of that. And so I own and operate those three businesses today, and that's kind of where I land. There's so much in between all of that. But I'll shut up for a moment, and maybe there's something I threw out there that, oh yeah, this is what happened to me. Right.
I love how you dove into the physical side of this. Hey, in transition, right? We're so entrenched in uniform, right? And you can correct me on the correct usage of the words, but you said, hey, the paths of your neurons, right? I mean, it's a well-grooved, we go from base to base or squadron to squadron in my case, or whatever. And the approach, the language, right? You don't even have to think about it. It's almost a reflex, right? And I absolutely love how you teased out. You said, hey, when you transition, or we like to say career progression, but when you step into progression and you're pursuing something else, there is no groove, right? And that's the physical side of stress comes out of this, depression comes out of this, because you're trying to deal with the current in the same trenched, neurological, paths, I guess. I'm by no means a surgeon or anything to understand, but I love the way that you bring the physical side of this, because I think there's a lot of truth to that, right? You will feel stress. You will feel uncomfortableness. There will be some trauma here. And we teased that out. And, with your permission, man, I may give you full credit, but I love the way you describe that, and just recognize that there is a physical part that's going to lead to some of this uncomfortableness. The other thing that you said that really resonated with me is we were leaders of men and women. We were part of teams, right? Large organizations. And I remember in my own case, when I stepped into transition, man, in many instances, it's just you, right? I mean, you're alone. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is not how I spent 30 years of my life. I'm part of a team, and we come together and we huddle up and we go forward and we do our job better than anybody else, but we do it together, man. And I got your back and you got mine, and all these kind of things. That quickly goes away. And I was very thoughtful when we started Blue Water, and I just said, look, it does not have to be this way. And one of the things, and Scott knows that when we started this program, we just said, we're going to grow our own organic support network. And it's a little bit, you're in the painting business. It's a little bit like watching paint dry. I'll be honest with you. We did our first cohort back in January of 2021. 10 people a month, Rob, does not scale great. But let me just kind of fast forward it to you. Now you've got, at the end of first quarter, you got 30 people in the network. Summer, now you've got 60. Stay the course, stay the path. End of first year, you're over 100. Now you're 200. Now you're 300. Now you're getting close to 400. And when I throw those numbers out, I kind of want you to know what it is we've built. I've built people who now work at Microsoft, Centera Medical, Johnson & Johnson, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, whatever. We all had the fundamental baseline. We were successful in uniform. We all had the fundamental baseline of going through the Blue Water cohorts. So we understand what it is we're trying to build. And now we're successful in navigating that career progression, onto our next success in life. And I am now part of your team, your network, and together we're going to get through this. If you want to recreate what I did and working here at Microsoft, it's not that I would hope you would reach out to me. I would almost expect you to, right? I mean, that's what we're building here. You don't have to go through transition alone, right? Yeah. It's team sport, man. Networking is a contact sport, right? I mean, and we're going to build it. And imagine if TAP or some of these institutionalized legacy programs, I mean, just for a second, imagine if they tracked every individual DoD-wide, and we had a relationship with all of them, and we knew where they went, and there was a repository of their lessons learned through their career progression or transition. And they're at all of these different industries or companies, and you can go through a list and just go, hey, I don't know Rob Campbell, but I see he sells blinds, he's got a painting business. I want to do that too. Hey, Rob, we're all part of the same transition team. And have you got a few minutes? You bet I do, Mike. And I'm going to tell you how to do this. And here's my landing report. Here's how I found success in pursuit of this. And you know what? I've got 8 other people I'm going to introduce you to, and together we're going to get you down this path. I mean, think how powerful that would be, right? Anyway, so a little bit of an insight. Sorry, we all get passionate about these things, but I'm excited to kind of build this, right? And it's fun. And I think our membership, they really, I mean, it's not just words. They see it, right? And you're delivering results. And Scott, right? They come to us because you deliver results, right? And it makes sense with them. It resonates with them. And we're hitting on an emotional chord, right? So, anyway.
Value proposition. They see the value of it and they'll come to it. I like progression, Mike, because, I say often that the next chapter has to be better than the last. And too often, many of our peers believe their best days are behind us. How can I replicate that? You have to. I mean, really, you have to. On the outside, it's got to be better than it used to be. And sure, there'll be things you can't replicate and that you might miss. But, you're right. We're alone. I mean, in service, you've got your wingman, your shipmate, your battle buddy. You can reach out and touch them. I say this a lot in entrepreneurship. What's why so many vets are running from it. It's because you're isolated. You're by yourself. A banker's not coming for you at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
and it doesn't care if you can't make payroll. I mean, it is a very isolating experience, and that's scary because we're never alone in the military.
Right.
Rob, I want to get your thoughts on that topic, kind of leading into the entrepreneurship idea a little bit, because maybe not all veterans are meant to go to the corporate route or something, but they don't always know when to do it. And I know for myself, I just remember about 10 years ago, I didn't know who I was or what I was doing. I was in the financial industry. It's like, am I employed or not employed? I didn't get it. And I said, I don't know what it is, Scott, but you have permission to figure it out. And I just told myself, like, I'm just going to see what kind of happens. And but I needed to be open-minded into just learning, just what don't I know? I called it compounding curiosity. It's like, oh, that thing sounds interesting. Go to buy a course or go to a seminar. And I just started learning this stuff. And so what people come to Mike and I, for different reasons is usually about money. And so often we're talking about money related things. People come to Mike because they want to replace their paycheck, with the correct value, right? People come to me because they want a better deal on the military benefits or something, save some money, a little bit better. But that's not what they tell me. somewhere in that phone call, usually, or somewhere in this process, not everybody, of course, but I often hear, I just don't know what I want to do when I grow up yet.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, as you told your story, since you didn't go directly corporate, and it sounded like you kind of made a little bit of a last minute decision when you were going to drop your paperwork and stuff, and you did the kind of leadership first mentality. And so in that way, whether or not you start a business or you go the corporate route, I think the framework there, the mindset is, when you're out of the military, yes, you're not a part of a team anymore. You're on your own. So now treat yourself as a business of one. Whether or not you set up that LLC or not does not matter. You are responsible for your entity. And so that new team is your network. That's what any business is trying to do, get customers. They're trying to get the awareness out there. And part of that networking or team building is finding other people who have already done versions of that who might have similar teams. That's what Blue Water, for example. So I'd love to get your thoughts on, what maybe why you didn't go to corporate directly, kind of how that played out, and maybe are there lessons learned for guys kind of leaning that way? Is it better to do it corporate for a few years or whatever? So anyways, I'll just pass it back to you and kind of get your thoughts on that.
No, it's a great question. I would never have guessed that I'm going to be in the place I'm in right now. I'm working on my 4th book right now, and it's called From Brigade Command to Blinds Installer. And
congratulations, that's awesome.
I love that.
I used to lead this large enterprise called an Army Brigade, nearly 5,000 men. Now I stand in the bathtubs of old ladies with booties on, measuring their windows. Now, I don't do that. I've got people doing that, but the leap is something huge. So there's a couple of philosophies, Scott, that guided me early on. I didn't think I could be led well enough. It's almost a bit of a curse because we see leadership in the military. Not all great. All of us had very bad leaders, but by and large, we see good leadership in the military because the military has the good fortune to send us off to leadership school for a year, right, and pay for that, and then put us back in the company. Well, private companies can't do that, and so I was a little nervous that, geez, I'm not sure I could work for somebody. Might be hard. Now, I have a pension as an Army colonel that helps keep the lights on. That's a differentiator without question. Most veterans you talk to don't have that. So you got to get something right. And my advice is to get it more right than wrong. Find something that is close enough. Scott, you mentioned money. When I talk to service members, buddies, that have transitioned or stepping into a job, they're never really talking about the paycheck, compensation package. They're talking about the culture and the team there and the mission, and that's what they're really focused on. Of course, money is important, without question. What you do, Scott, is tremendously important. It's a big piece of the equation for all of us, but it's not foremost on our mind. And so, listen, it was tough. 06 pension only gets you so far. I started that business, and it was very, very difficult. I jumped off the ship a few times and came back. But for me, it was a philosophy of make myself rich or make someone else rich. It was a philosophy or a risk equation. Okay, if I have one job and it goes away, because you got some safety net in the military there, you're not going to be fired tomorrow. But in a private business, oh yeah, absolutely. If that goes away, that's it. I got one job. Well, in a business, if I got 24 clients and I lose one, well, I got 23 more. It's there. The business pays for things like my car, my cell phone. It allows me to take more of my pension, all the things that a business can do. And then I'm able to, I'm the captain of my own ship, right? I answer to nobody. I go home the captain of my own ship every day, even in the hard times when we're in these troughs and money's not flowing and you're trying to wrestle this thing down. I'm able to easily draw on my military experience of problem solving and leadership and motivating people to keep this ship afloat. And so it was all those exciting things. And you said earlier, not all veterans are entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of truth there. I'm a nonconformist in my personality assessment. Rules don't apply to me. Now that I get burned sometimes, right? Don't park here. Hey, Rob, don't park there. Okay, buddy. But I'm a disruptor, and that's what entrepreneurs do. They get in and say, we could do this better. We could turn this on its head. So my wheels are always turning in that respect. And it would have been cool to know this in the transition process, right? Like Mike, what you talking about? Okay, Rob, what's your progression? Because I love that term. It's not what's next. What are you going to do now? It's a progression. It's an upward movement. Well, buddy, yours is entrepreneurship. It reeks with entrepreneurship. Oh, really? Okay. Tell me more about it. Last point, I went into it very blind and ignorant because there are some entrepreneurship courses out there, but really centered on making a business plan. Okay, business plan for what? I don't know. And so there's 3 paths. We're not talking about 3. We're talking about 1. We're talking about startup. I want to start a coffee shop. Okay, good for you. Wonderful idea. Who's going to buy your coffee? Why are they going to come to you? All these things you got to think about. Startups are impossible. Look, I'm an optimist. I hate to squash anyone's dreams, but startups are impossible. I did one. And you heard how long it took me to get somebody. The other 2 paths are buy existing and franchise. And you think about franchise is what we do in the military. We go from one organization that existed with everything in its systems and people to another. So you jump into a franchise, you make it better, you sell it, move on somewhere else. Better fits. So I bought the blinds biz as an existing business, and I was collecting checks on day 1. But it has given to me sometimes like an infant screaming and yelling at me and taught me things. It's been a real great journey of growth. But yeah, I think, again, it goes back to knowing yourself, right? Am I a good fit? If I'm somebody coming out, Rob Campbell, that enjoyed that bureaucracy, does what it always does, and I liked the depth that I found in the military, well, maybe some big, large corporation is where you belong. Nothing wrong with that. But maybe that's it. And so if they're thinking about that, I think first thing is get yourself stabilized, find some sort of progression, get it more right than wrong. Don't drop an anchor. Don't buy the house, the boat, the car. Here we are. We've arrived. I did that. We got out of it okay. Stay flexible, and then start dipping your toe in these things. Okay, you want to, disrupt the landscaping industry? Go pick up a rake for a while, and see that and say, okay, yeah, this is it. This is the fit. I know. So, long answer to a short question.
No, that's a perfect answer. The dipping the toe in it, I think that's the missed opportunity. In the past, starting a business was an all or nothing type thing, and it's like, no, guys, we live in the internet age. You can pick an hour a day and literally start a business, but you're not coming in, with everything already. You got to realize you're starting at day 1 and such. And Mike, I want to ask you real quick, like what have you seen as people, now that you've had people in for a few years? That we know Tori, we're doing a networking meetup in a few weeks on Tori's boat, the VB Tiki Boat Tours. He started that boat on the side because he was down in Pensacola. He's like, they don't have this up in Virginia Beach. And so he got a boat and he set it all up and he's super successful, but he's still fully employed, in the corporate realm. Like this is, he may turn it into a huge thing. I hope he does. That'd be awesome. But yeah, like that is just a great example coming out of Blue Water as someone who's able to take advantage of kind of both paths. Mike, have you seen any more of that, or people asking more questions, or?
So, yeah, I mean, our membership, Rob, we're wide. We're probably across now almost 150 different companies, various different industries. I'm so excited to say that if you're curious about something, we have somebody that's pretty darn close to that. And I love the way you say, hey, get it more right than not, right? Yeah. Just yesterday, I'll take you back to a conversation. We're about halfway through the day, and we're talking about market analysis and looking for those good fits. And this is how you assess a good fit. Because the one thing I know about the pedigree of our membership, if it's a horrible fit, they will not stay. If they hate getting out of bed every single day and they don't believe in the company's mission or vision, and it is a bad leader, and this is not bringing them fulfillment, they are credible enough and they have the wherewithal. The leadership I'm talking about, you're not going to stay in that environment. You're going to go, look, this is not good, and I'm out.
All right.
and what we talk to members about is, while I can't guarantee that your first success will be the best fit ever, I want that to be the goal. And we have a process and a mindset to kind of work through to assess good fits. But I often tell them, I go, don't put the weight of the world on your shoulders, right? I said, there's no one-way doors in this new world. You're stepping into this at-will work environment. We have a process, and we're going to your words, let's get it more right than wrong. And you're going to start learning what is a good fit for you. Now, hopefully you've done some preamble, right, before, and you've got it dialed in a little bit. And this is how you do that. We also encourage our members, we go, hey, we built this organic network. I want you to have 150 informational conversations with all these guys and gals in these different companies and industries. And I want you to ask them questions like, not the standard question, hey, I need a job. Do you have a job for me? No, stay away from that. Like,
Sure.
What's the best part about your day?
Right.
What motivates you to continue to make your contribution with this company in this industry? Right? You got to ask the right question. And so we walk them through this mindset of going, because that's really what you're interested in, right? That's you're hungry for, and you can see the frustration in their face. They're going, Mike, I don't even know what company's out there. I don't even know what questions to ask. And I go, let's just take the weight of the world off your shoulders. It's going to be okay. We have a 100% success rate. You're coming through Blue Water. You want a job, you're going to get a job, right? But let's focus on fit. This is how you do it. And let me introduce you to 350 people that look just like you. And you're going to have questions where you ask them, you're going to put your toe in it. And you're going to spend time with those individuals so you can start to empathetically go, yeah, hey, I'm like you. I could see myself doing this. And it doesn't have to be the answer, but often you can just see there's a comfort factor, because I think at that point they realize, they go, oh, I'm not going through this alone.
Right.
I'm not to use you guys' term, I'm not an army of one, right? I'm an army of many, right? I have a lot of insight available, and they're going to be there to help me. But I always joke about it. I go, hey, I want to be real clear here, you guys. I said, this is a little bit like The Godfather. And I kind of look at him, I go, I don't need anything from you today. The team is here for you today. But I will come knocking someday. And I will need something someday. And I said, I need everybody in the room to look at me and acknowledge that this is what we're building and you're a part of it. But that resonates with that group, that personality, right? Because we hunger to be a part of a team again. I want to roll in responsibility. Mike, tell me, what do you need from me? And I go, I don't need anything today. We're going to get you landed. We're going to get you through this. But you know what? You're going to go find success at, I don't know, you fill in the blank, right? Xerox, you're going to work for some company, right? You're going to go to Northrop Grumman or Lockheed or Boeing or whatever. A year from today, guess what? You're the most current, relevant, credible source in that swim lane. And I've got somebody who wants to do what you did. I'm knocking, and I'm going to remind you what we did for you. I say it flippantly and with the smile on my face, right? But you get it. They're spring ready. They go, Mike, put me in. It was just like Blue Water went to DC. Scotty Askin at Ernst & Young Scotty saw the social media post for us going up there. And he goes, dude, I'm on business. I'm up in DC. What do you need? And I go, man, could you come do lunch with us at the round table? He goes, I'm there. What time do you need me? Like, you bet. Like, that's amazing. That's what we're building here. They hunger to be a part of this team. And so, I don't know. That's a long answer. Rob, I would like to know what your thoughts are on this. We do have members come and they go, Mike, I don't even know what I want to do. I don't know. And I kind of walk them through that mindset a little bit. Are we missing anything in that, though? I mean, we just say, hey, here's your network. I want you to have conversations. I want you to put a toe in the water. Don't put the weight of the world. There's no one-way doors in this new world, but we do want you to spend a little bit of time trying to find a good fit. But if it's not, that's okay, right? This is a process, and you're going to go through this. and you'll be smarter to make a better fit next time. Don't feel like that you're going to have another 35 year career. You may, if you find it, but it's not typical, right, in this new world, right? Yeah. And I think we often approach this with those well-worn path neurons. Yep. We approach it from, hey, I'm part of this team, and I'm going to be part of it for 30 years, and I'm loyal to it, and onerous, and everything else. And man, Johnson & Johnson gave me a job, so I am here until I die, man. And we're going to take care of the team. And that may be the case, but you guys already know, right? Often it is not. And those well-worn path neurons, we go, well, Mike, that's kind of not very honorable, right? To like be considering another job when you're getting a paycheck from Johnson & Johnson. And I'm like, hey, man, you have no community manager. You have no monitor. You have no detailer. You have no placement. Nobody's managing your career anymore. That's on you. What do you have aspirations to do? Maybe you like the company's environment, but you want your boss's job. Or maybe you have to go someplace else to get the experience to come back to level up, right? So what are we missing on that, Rob? We try to build a network and plug them in, but what else would you tell our members? Is there anything we're missing in that?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because Mike, this is hard stuff. You know it. It's transition. As I have examined this and written about it and thought about it and have discovered things, it is hard work. The real gold is getting them. Right now, as the three of us are speaking, there's 250,000 people probably having a set of transition orders right now.
Yep. Yep.
And they're not thinking about things they ought to be. And wouldn't it be cool to whisper in their ear to say, hey, it's going to be okay, but I got a few seeds I need to plant here.
Exactly.
I want to back into that question because I will answer it. It's a fantastic one. You were talking about, really what you were talking about was networking as they dive into the blue water, is connecting with those people and having those conversations. If there's one thing, I signed on with a company that was going to place me in corporate America, and then I backed out because, of course, I wanted to go the entrepreneur role. But I learned how to network in that space, and it's just about making it all about them. Mike, like you said, what's a day in your life like? What do you like most about your job and what's the path you traveled to get there? Where would you place a guy like me or a gal like me in your industry? And I think we definitely need to strike a balance between veteran and non-veteran, because I, especially in the entrepreneurship space, have learned more from non-veterans than I have veterans, because they've got experience in private business ownership that I do not. And so you have those conversations 3 to 5 a week as you're in that space. Certainly with the team and the tribe that they can enter in with Blue Water, very powerful, because we're not necessarily blazing paths that somebody hasn't already traveled ahead of us. And so cool. And that's why I wrote my second book, At Ease, on transition, because there wasn't anything like that when I transitioned. I wanted to hear someone's story and perspectives.
Right.
So you've got that gold mine sitting right there. And it's all about the network. You're absolutely right. Every success I have had, personal, private, has come from a network conversation I have with somebody, sometimes years removed, where they come back, Rob, I got something for you. Or Rob, I need something, or I heard about you. It is all about the network, especially on this, outside. One thing that really I was awakened to when I got out is just how small we are as a military. You break that down into these little silos, of submariners and paratroopers and rangers, and you name that group, special operators. They're doing these little tiny subsets of the military. But when you get out, there's this vast ocean that is daunting. So it is all about the network. And so to your question, there's a few things I offer when they're in that strange space. A lot of times I've caught, guys that I served with that are on the cusp of transition. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine, military guy, Army guy. And I said, look, John, his name was, there's two people that are emerging right now. One is John, the loyal soldier, ready to jump back into the suck, do what the team needs, a hardship. I'll go where you want. I'll be there. I'll be loyal. I'll stay. All of those. That's the soldier in you. There's another person that's emerging, which is the kid, excited about the possibilities with this blank sheet of paper that he or she has, and can think about and really chase those things you're truly passionate about. That's the person you need to listen to, right? The question of, okay, if money wasn't an issue, house is paid for, roof over the head, food on the table, what would you do?
Yeah.
Think about that, right? What would you do? Well, I'd go surfing. Okay, you're probably not going to make much money doing that, right? But there's something in there, right? Of what would you do? What is that you're really, truly passionate about? Okay, chase that. You might not get to it right away, but maybe down the road, you'll find that. Another question is, go back in your life, even in high school and your childhood, if you need to, and pluck out 5 times when you were in it. You were feeling confident. It felt right. It was good. You were there, right? Just jot those down. Don't examine them. Just put them down, 5 of them. And then once you've got them, go back and look and see what common threads are there. Or what was it? Well, I was leading. Well, I was speaking. Well, I was writing. Well, I was doing whatever. Okay. There's something there, right? Be loyal to that. Keep that on your radar as you navigate these spaces. Let it speak to you. So again, you can get this journey more right than wrong. And one more thing, and then I'll turn it back over to you guys. The interview process, as they step into these places, because you're talking about, well, I'm going to work for, ABC Corporation. And by God, I'm going to be loyal all the year. And they call me, I'll be there, and I'm never leaving the team. Well, now things are a little differently now. It's almost like take selfless service and make it a little bit of selfish service, right? But that's an out-of-body experience for us.
Yeah.
So I speak on veteran transition a lot. It's a speech called "Are you veteran friendly or veteran ready?" And I talk more to non-veterans about that because they don't understand us. It's my attempt to bring them into our world. Veterans suck at interviews because it's the first time in our professional life where we have to self-promote, and we're not used to that. You come to my brigade in the 101st. Hey, look at all these wonderful things I can do in my resume. That's great. Sport, hit the door. What are you here to do for the team? How are you going to contribute? How are you going to sacrifice for the greater mission?
It's a great call out. I love that.
Yeah. And then another one, Mike, which I think is gold. And I heard this from somebody and I just froze in place. So I'll give you a fictitious scenario. Let's say Rob Campbell transitions out. I want to get into pharmaceuticals for whatever reason. That's where I think my passion is. So I'm going to chase that path, right? I got a great resume, commander of a brigade, Army infantry guy. And I'm sitting there in the interview, all right? And this other person said, Rob, what a wonderful resume. Thanks for your service. This is really tremendous, really tremendous. But you don't have industry experience. Okay, here's my answer. True. But the nouns are the same. I'm sorry, the verbs are the same. It's just the nouns that are different. The verbs are the same. It's just the nouns that are different. You would hire me to coordinate, to collaborate, to build consensus with stakeholders, to problem solve, to lead. I can show you 100-fold in my resume where I have done that. I can learn the nouns. And again, I can show you 100-fold on my resume where I had to step out of my job description and do something that the service called upon me to do. I'm not marginalizing the pharmaceutical industry and thinking that it's easy, but I can get there. I can learn the nouns. And I think that thought process, if these guys going in and gals sitting in front of somebody, can be tremendously helpful.
No, I love that. And I think you're absolutely right. And we touch tangentially on that typically when we start talking about resumes and what they really are. And, there are so many things. If I could just talk stereotypically about our membership, they show up, they immediately want to buy suits and they want to crank out a resume. And I look them in the eye and I go, not to burst your bubble, but those 2 things aren't really even in the top 5 of things that I want you to focus on today. And they just look at me like I've got 3 eyeballs and they're like, Mike, what are you talking about? I got to have a resume. And I go, what job are you pursuing? What industry are you looking at? Well, I don't know. I got to figure this out. I got to get a resume first. No. I want you to target and understand what you're pursuing. And then we'll take this document and and we will target it accordingly, right? And that's where you deal with the nouns and the verbs and that kind of stuff. And they go, well, man, I got to buy all these suits. I'm not wearing, camouflage. I'm not doing, flight suits or anything else. And I go, well, okay, let me share my own personal example. Yeah, I went down to Joseph A. Banks. I threw down the plastic. I bought $4,000 worth of suits and ties and belts and socks, and everything matched the color of what it's supposed to and everything. And then subsequently, I went to Amazon, got hired, and I didn't touch that wardrobe for 5 years. Literally, if my wife was on this podcast, when I say it literally became moth-eaten with holes in it, that is a legit true statement. It was all just eaten up alive in a closet in Seattle because that is not welcome in the environment that I landed. And so we go, you have to do your market analysis. What is expected of you in the environment that you're pursuing, right? And then you're going to target it accordingly. I would have much rather gone to Home Depot and bought tools or Bass Pro Shop and bought, bullets or rods or whatever, right? And I laugh about that and I try to make it a funny story, but there's truth in that.
It's hard work. It's hard work, and to whisper that in someone's ear as they're still wearing the uniform. See, I don't buy this. You got to start transition 2 years out. Okay, sure, you can start. There is a preamble, like you said, and you absolutely need to do that. If I were to rewind, I would certainly start doing some things earlier, right? But I don't think I got it totally wrong. You're still a soldier. You're still a sailor. You're still beholden to an institution. And until you are out, and this is why transition is so hard, because they don't realize this stuff until they're sitting there with all the wreckage around them. Oh my God, I've got all this stuff and I hate my job and I'm stuck. Oh my God. It's because, so that's so hard to try and get upstream and get to them and say, hey, tap on the shoulder, stay flexible. I'm going to go through changes.
I'll just throw one thing out there. About a year ago, we were doing a cohort for the Commander Naval Air Forces out in San Diego, the Navy's 3-star command out on the West Coast there. And, 3 stars are opinionated, right? So I can see, to his credit, he wanted to see what the program was about. He sat in it. He wanted to hear it and see it and what's the message and do it. And to his credit, with the exception of one minor break during lunch, man, he was in there. His EA just left him alone, and he spent, that's amazing. A 3-star would spend 8 hours straight.
Sure.
And you could see we're talking about networking there midday, and you could see the wheels just turning. And I was kind of like, you're reading your audience a little bit. And I was like, okay, I got to stand by because there's about a shot coming across the bow here from the 3-star, right? And finally he just goes, he just can't hold it in. And he comes out and he goes, Mike, he goes, don't you realize we're still wearing the uniform? You're telling us we got to network. You're telling us that how important networking is. And he goes, we don't have time to do that. He says, you sat where they are. They don't have time. And I looked at him. I'm like, yeah, keep it coming. Let's get it all out. Keep it coming. And I looked at him and I said, I go, are we good? Is it all out? And he's like, yeah. And I go, you're absolutely right. And you're welcome. What are you building for you? I said, I know you don't have time to do this. We are building this organic network that is ready for you to plug into day one. This is your new squadron. This is your new brigade that you're joining. This is your new unit. This is your new tribe. And they are here. You have much in common with them. You wore the uniform. You served. You had successes. They've just transitioned successfully, and now, the blue water baseline, and now they're ready for you. You're right, and you're welcome.
Fast forwards that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yep. And I think to your point, right? You still do have a job. Yeah, it's hard to detach, man. I can't. Man, 12, 15 months out, man, I can't build this network. I've got an allegiance here, right? And we hope that, in our subtle way, maybe we're making a difference, right? You're ready to plug in on arrival, right? That's the vision, anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Hey. No, good. Hey, Rob. I in the last few minutes here, what I was hoping you could do is just tell us more about Rob Campbell leadership and what are you doing? Who are you serving? Because now here's some inside baseball. What's going to happen here is, as you're sharing kind of who you're served and what you're doing, all I'm doing is thinking of who I know, who could use that. Like that's what networking is, right? It's just kind of paying attention as people are mentioning stuff and trying to connect the dots. Because if you don't know what you want to do yet, or what you want to do when you grow up, what I always say is what you can, or you don't know what your passion is that you want to pursue. What you can pursue that's always going to be useful are sales and marketing skills. Learn to brand yourself, learn to find more people to see if you like them, they like you. That's all we're trying to do. So as the skill sets develop, because you're going to have to practice those skill sets, that's how you're meeting people. And ultimately, you just become your own little hub of your teams. And again, some are going to have those teams already in place for you, like Mike's doing, to tap into. But then you're going to create your own version of the team that you can tap Mike into, and then vice versa. And unless you're doing that, if it's just resume, I got a job, I'm out, then what's the opportunity cost?
Yeah.
Like our country kind of needs, especially, the senior leaders out there not being lost in a cubicle somewhere. We if that's where it's got to start, fine. But, we want to progress. We need you to progress. That's kind of my mission behind US Vet Wealth, to see money and opportunity, life, passion, just kind of, it's not the military. And I've had a West Point grad tell me, well, I already had the best, he's 44-year-old. I already had the best job anybody could ever have. Are you talking about being a platoon leader? Dude, that's 20 years ago. I mean, so you're right. Those neurons are there, and some people don't give themselves that permission. So Rob, tell us what you're doing, how you're doing it, how people can find you. And
Rob, you're a pretty intimidating guy. You've written so many daggone books. I'm lucky if I can fill up a yellow sticky note during the day, man. So listen, very impressive, and my hat's off to you. So congratulations on all your books. It's amazing.
Rob, I'll browse your website while you're chatting, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of here in the
I get X-ray vision, Mike. You've got a book inside of you. I can see it.
I don't know about that, sir. I would be lost in that world. I'm a sticky note guy. I don't know how you get from a sticky note to a book. Seriously, I don't know.
Well, so put me in I'll be in the Blue Water Network, and I can help you there for sure, because I've been down.
I love it. I love it.
Let's talk about Rob Campbell leadership a little bit. It certainly represents my core passion, why I'm placed in this earth, to invest in other people and give back. All three of us, veterans writ large, have service in our DNA. You don't shut that off when you transition. Scott, I submit what you're doing is centered around your desire to serve. And you get that cup of service filled in what you're doing. Well, this is gold for me right here, where I get to watch leaders grow in front of me. The Army gave me that in spades. It was easy. It was right there in front of me, soldiers, every single day. And so Rob Campbell Leadership, it started with a kind of a wide portfolio of consulting, coaching, speaking, teaching. I've kind of landed on coaching and speaking, which are the two things I enjoy doing the most. Doesn't mean I won't do the others. I do have 21 different courses that I teach that I've created based off of the need that I have seen in the private sector. But started with it's personal, not personnel. And that's how it's my investing in people, very people-centric approach to leadership at the core of all of this. And I've built a body of work around it. I do coaching with executives. My sweet spot, I think, is I've done a lot in the healthcare industry. For whatever reason, I'm in there. I seem to get it, and maybe it's because they're dealing with stress and crisis and the demands of what's going on. So there's some similarities, and what I offer, can help them grow. 3 months minimum, 6 months optimal. They got to take that journey with me, where I can get them to a better place, leading better, growing. It's everybody needs a coach, right? Even professional athletes. And so I've got a coach. And so I do that there. Speaking for me is, I'm an artist at the center of this thing. I do art through the keyboard, through wordcraft. And that's what speaking does for me. And I've got some stories to tell and important points to make. And it really falls in two places: leadership speaking, where I've got, investing in people, keynote, where I tell people, okay, how do you do that? How do you prevent employee turnover? How do you build a motivated, connected, engaged team? Share what I did in the military, all the things I learned. Because I say, if there's a leadership challenge in your organization, I have screwed it up probably a dozen times and learned from it. And I'm here to teach and share those lessons. And so there's that. And then the other one is about veteran transition. And I speak a lot to really non-veterans because there's this great level of respect for us and what we've done. But again, this chasm, this gap in knowledge of who we are and what is this thing called transition? What's that journey look like? And how can an organization, a community be veteran ready, meaning they're ready to receive and retain tonight, right now? Because anyone can be veteran friendly. That's an easy block to check. Last piece is the writing. I blog twice a week. I think I've added you two. If not, I will on Mondays and Fridays. I'm up at 5 a.m. in the dark writing by myself. I've got a long list of titles that I say, oh yeah, I could write about that. And I get, the things that come up in coaching and in my teaching was, oh yeah, that's a great blog right there. So that's been, I've got over 100,000 in blogs, words in blogs. It'll be my greatest hits album at some point, but I think I got to get a few more books before I go to greatest hits album. But I will do that. My third book is about ready to come
again,
out.
Rob. Again, intimidating. I'm just going to throw it out there. You've written books. You're getting your greatest hits to come out. Come on, man. Oh my God, it's amazing. It's amazing.
I'm sorry. You can click me off the screen if this is too much. So
No.
My third book is coming out on crisis. It's called Left and Right of the Boom: The Art of Leadership Before, During, and After Crisis.
Wow.
Left and Right of the Boom, as you guys know, came from the IED experience in Iraq and Afghanistan, and getting left of the boom. How do we prevent hitting it? How do we protect ourselves when it happens? All those things that we focused on doing. How do you lead when the explosion happens? What do you do afterwards? Instead of flushing it, ignoring it, going back and learning from it, adapting from that, and then getting back into that cycle.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's on the cusp of coming out. We've got the book cover done. I'm going to be doing a lot on social media about it, but I think we'll get it out in June. I've got the first half of it edited with my publisher, and that'll get it. Of course, I'm working on book number 4, which is my journey from brigade command into blinds installer, into entrepreneurship, because to me, it makes total sense. But to many, it doesn't. And it's a story that I want to share. It's really kind of my way to champion business ownership because of all that it does for me. And so, yeah, that's Rob Campbell Leadership. It's a lifestyle business for me. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't start with the X mind. It's got my name attached to it. When I stop doing it, it stops. And that's okay. These other businesses that I'm running are gold mines for leadership in terms of what I learn in dealing with non-service members. But that's Rob Campbell Leadership. You can find me at robcampbellleadership.com. Yeah, or
Rob,
LinkedIn.
I think that is the ultimate form of leadership, kind of paying it forward. Not every veteran is got the capacity, or similar to me, your example of, hey, go back to when you were a kid. What were you good at? For me, it wasn't until I was 37 that I remembered I was a national competitive speech and debate, performer. I was like a humorist. And so I was like, oh, I'm good at this. I could just BS on I'll just do the video thing. Like, oh, my competition's not doing that. Oh, it just simply gets easier from the ability. So not everybody's willing to tell their stories, their struggles, their challenges, get up on stage, and not only make it easier for those transitioning behind you, but being the one that helps translate all this stuff for the civilians, for the corporations. So to all Blue Water members listening, as you're in your corporation, think of Rob as now a resource who, if you're having a struggle, maybe your corporation can have him come in and speak or do a workshop or whatever. So let's keep that kind of leadership in mind as well. But I thought I had another thought, but oh no, there's something I want to say offline, or chat about you guys quick offline before we go. But Mike, any last parting thoughts, and then we'll pass over to Rob to give his info.
Going up to DC and coming back, I found a podcast. It's Diary of a CEO, and it's just vignettes. I don't know if either one of you have listened to it, but the producer, or the host of the podcast, at the end of his podcast, he started a kind of a neat thing. He asked the individuals to throw out, hey, you don't know who our next guest is going to be. Ask a question for our next guest. Leave a question for our next guest, right? And it kind of throws a wild card in there. And, so that just got me thinking, Scott, maybe we could put a twist on that. And before we leave a podcast, we go, what would be a good topic for our next podcast, right? And everybody kind of throws something out there, and maybe we could cherry pick something that I've just now come into my brain, and I just want to share with you guys. We spend so much time focused on leadership, so much time focusing on our membership, on how to navigate this career progression time, how to be successful in this, how to approach companies. Why couldn't we go to the companies and go, yeah, you say you're veteran friendly. That's an easy thing to say. What do you do to make yourself veteran friendly? They don't know. You already know, Rob, they don't know the answer to that, right? They don't.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we go to them and say, this is what you could do to inspire veteran leadership to come to?
No, Mike, you just need that logo, military friendly company. You just put it on your website.
Well, unfortunately, sad but true, many of them, it's just superficial, right? It's in vogue.
They're trying.
We want veterans. We want to have they don't know the difference between a captain or a colonel. They don't know the difference between, an aviator, a ranger. They have no idea. No. And I'll even take it a step further. They don't care. They really don't want to learn. And we could easily inspire them to say, let me tell you why this is in your best interest. You want to talk about profit and loss. You want to talk about changing your corporate performance. Let me tell you with a little bit of twist on how you can inspire and draw this group and what it's going to do for you. Because you already know, Rob, we move mountains. There's no task that we can't do. There's nothing we can't learn. They don't know that yet. Right?
If anybody doesn't think Mike Wallace will be an advocate for you, I mean, right there, he will fight. He will fight.
I just throw that out. Maybe there's something there, right?
We know this. I built a business program around veteran ready. How does your company become veteran ready? And it's a journey from recruiting all the way through retention. How exactly do you do that so that you can really put money where your mouth is?
If we want to lean into this, let's do this again here in a few weeks, and
that's our next topic,
and have that conversation. Mike, you're right. Let's speak to the companies. I don't know. I've been self-employed this whole time. I never even did a resume, so I love being the kind of the outside. Well, I've always been on the outside looking in for military retirees for 15 years. I think that's kind of what allowed me to notice all this. I was having the same conversations, dozens and dozens every year. And so that's why I knew I needed to find guys like you who've been through it and are leading to help others go through it, because we need more of you out there. But
you guys realize we've gone through an hour? Rob, we went through an hour already. It's crazy.
Like your eyes.
That's why this is great. I mean, it's like, hey, if we could meet every week for a coffee, with our best buds, it's just not that world anymore. But we can do these types of things, and so. And if we can pass along some insights along the way, it doesn't hurt. Otherwise, obviously, we're getting to know each other. And so technically anybody can do this. That's the amazing thing. It's a different way to network, learn new things, build your brand, and figure out the next step.
Thanks for putting this together, man. I mean, you are the tech behind, the magic behind the tech, I guess, and all.
Thanks for doing a whole career, so I had somebody to talk to with actual experience.
And I love the new logo, dude. Nice work, right? It's the sword taking a knee there. I love it. And Rob, thank you for all you do, man. Thanks for your service too, and I know what that means. And you and I wore that cloth together. So who knows? Maybe I was flying and giving you some support overhead at some place sometime. Right? You never know. We did a lot of that.
100%. I'm sure we caught. Yeah. So it's been a great conversation, guys.
Yeah.
Rob, how can people find you? Obviously, we looked at the website. Where else should they follow you?
Yeah, two places. I think the main place is probably LinkedIn. I think everyone, a lot of folks in this network anyway have a LinkedIn account. So Rob Campbell Leadership, I find a lot of folks there. Got great conversations there. Great place to start that networking. It's a really great site. I rely on it heavily. I've got over 22,000 connections there. The other one is Rob Campbell Leadership. There's, hey, contact me on there so you can find me. There's I have a speaker agent, Hey Red Speaking Agency. She can get you lined up with, okay, you want Rob to come speak. So go find me there. I'll be standing by.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Rob, for joining us. And Mike, thanks for doing the red eye. and coming in.
Yeah, I got my
Goodbye,
coffee.
everybody.
I got my coffee. I'm good.
I'm going to be out of town next week, so we're probably not going to be going live because I don't even know what city I'm going to be in yet. But we'll get something back on the schedule here in a couple weeks.
Sure.
And we'll see everybody on the next Take an E.
All right. See you.
Thanks.